2022 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Susan Klaus-Smith. I'm the chair of the commission. I'm also a registered architect. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. Commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation, and your project should be presented in the following order: the site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present the staff report, and we will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. When coming to the microphone, please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following the public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed, and the only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review, or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing tonight. Please note that the ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owners and or agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do silence your cell phones, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Sutton. I am also a registered architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair for this commission.
I'm Brent Taylor, and I'm a building contractor.
I'm John Prokop, and I practice architecture.
And with us tonight, we have the city attorney, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. We have Elaine Lund, Alexis Guzman, and Ron Vila.
Good evening. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda?
I have none.
None.
Additionally, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda?
None.
None.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ron Vila. I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Moving down the agenda, the next item is continuations. We have none reflected on the agenda, but I'd like to do the swear-in, and then I'll get into the meat of the agenda this evening. So at this time, everybody that wishes to swear in, please stand up and raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony. Sir, are you presenting your case?
Yeah.
You have to state it.
Oh, I thought if you,
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be giving today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
So the first agenda item is ARC 22-179. It's from John Frost. John Frost is here, and he wishes to address the board.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I have the wrong plans, and I would respectfully request a continuance to next month.
Can you put your name on the record, please?
John
Just state your name.
John Frost.
What date are we looking at for the continuance?
We have an availability for January 9th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion, please, to continue the case to January 9th, 2023? Excuse me.
I move for continuation for the property located at, for ARC 22-179 for the property located at 5209 North Branch Avenue in the Seminole Heights District, to the ARC meeting scheduled for January 9th, 2023 at 5:30 here in this room.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Continued. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. The next item on our agenda this evening is case ARC 22-404 for the property located at 508 East Sparkman Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This request is for new construction of an accessory structure with site improvements. And the building, the primary structure on the site, the house that is there, is a recently constructed building. It was built in 2019 and was reviewed and approved by this board. So with that, I will move into the photo presentation. The Tampa Heights Historic District map is shown on the screen. The National Historic District outline is shown in blue, and the local historic district outline is shown here in red. You can see that the subject site, which is highlighted, is located within the local historic district. This is the 1920s Sanborn map showing the subject site. At that time, it was a vacant lot on Sparkman Avenue between Grove Street and I believe that is Central Avenue there. This is the modern day aerial map showing the subject site. You can see the primary structure that again is a recently built structure on the north side of Sparkman Avenue, and you can see the proximity to the interstate there as well. This is the south facade of the existing structure on the site. This is looking toward its east side and looking toward the west side. And then this is the rear of the existing house. This is the property located just to the east. And then we have the property located just to the west. These are both also non-contributing structures. And then the house across the street, which is a contributing structure to the district. This is looking east along Sparkman toward the toward Grove and the interstate, and then looking west back towards Central Avenue. That concludes the photo presentation. So this time I'd like the applicant to come forward and present the request.
Good evening. My name is Matt Sink Green, last name spelled S-I-E-N-K. I'm a authorized agent for the applicant who's here today. He has an ear infection, so he can't hear what's going on, so I opted to present for him today. We wanted to follow up with the, with the site plan. You'll see the south side is on here, so you have the original structure with the new addition going on the northwest side of the property. The additional document is going to show it best this way, which is going to show that the access for the property, they come through the portiche, and then the accessory unit is going to be on that rear side. It's going to allow for occupancy of 2 vehicles and then a second floor unit to go in addition to that. The architect has gone to great lengths to mimic the primary structure that was approved by this board in 2019. It might have been 2018 when it was approved. You'll see that the materials and the elevations are consistent with the existing structure. That they have the same detailing and the same size and scale to what was already approved by this board to make sure it's consistent with the neighborhood. This is going to be your rear elevation, so it's going to be coming from the north side looking south. Again, the detail on the rear of the addition is going to mimic that of the original structure that was approved by this board. Additionally, the size and scale is going to show this looking from the west side looking east. So you can see that, again, the size and scale is consistent. The architectural detail is also consistent with the existing structure. Additional detail on the exposed rafters, the details in the windows, and so people can kind of see what it looks like. And then we also are providing a material schedule, again, is consistent with the existing structure to ensure that it is compatible with the surrounding homes that are already there. There was some findings by the staff. There was 8 conditions. The very first condition was to meet with staff, and that has been completed, and they've met with staff. The second was requiring a site plan with 1-inch to 10-foot scale. That was also required and submitted. Approval is contingent upon the design exception 122-269 for the height of the accessory dwelling unit. We're under the impression that the design exception approval is ready, but is contingent upon the ARC approval. So we're not sure if that is the case or if additional information is needed. There was a request to enlarge the barge rafters to 2x8s. Those have been enlarged, and they're seen on the latest drawings that have been submitted to the city. Considering adding additional windows to the east elevation, those windows have been added as requested by staff. There was originally some brick base put on the front to make it consistent with the existing dwelling. Staff indicated that they were not in favor of that, so that has been removed. And then provide complete wall sections 3/4 inch to 1 foot, showing all exterior features and calling out materials and dimensions. Again, that has been provided. And then provide a complete material palette, including but not limited to samples, examples, and cut sheets. And as you can see, we also provide the same detail so that the ARC has everything necessary to make an informed decision. And that completes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. We'll have the,
Do you want me to?
oh, okay.
Oh,
My name is Mark Brokaw, and I am the property owner, and just stating for the record that Matt Sink is an authorized agent for my property, and for this case.
Thank you, sir. If that concludes your presentation at this time, we'll have staff present the report.
Commissioners, staff finds that this application is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines. The applicant has addressed the conditions that were listed in the staff report. You may wish for them to go through that in a little more detail, but otherwise I'm available if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll open the hearing up to public comment. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak for or against this project, you have the opportunity to come forward at this time. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the comment or the hearing, and our commissioners will start to ask questions beginning on my left.
Thank you very much. Sir, please, if you could pull up your site plan. for a
yes, sir.
moment. I have 2 questions here.
Sure.
With the inclusion of this accessory structure, what is happening on your site with respect to anything regarding fences or gates?
So as there is right now, there's a vinyl fence located on the north side of the property, and it's already there. It's there, and it's going to remain in its place. There's not going to be any changes to the fencing.
Okay, so there's no real enclosure to your perimeter or connection to your accessory building, or an interruption of that fence brought to you by the accessory building, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, with respect to the accessory building, what I do not immediately see at this point, because of the nature of the scale of the document, is 2 items. One is the location of your AC equipment and utilities. And the second item is the nature, or if you will, the extension of your pavement systems and how that would be treated or regarded as an extension of your existing pavements on this site.
Correct. So I'm going to first address the concrete or the driveway system. As it is right now, it has a single lane driveway, and it is going to basically enlarge to cover the space for where the cars go into the garage and to the east side to where the stairwell goes up. So there'll be a addition of the
That
concrete.
portion backward.
Correct.
Because I see on your site plan here, no indication of scoring of any kind. That's to be determined in the field?
Correct.
What about your air conditioning equipment?
Let me consult them very quickly on the AC location. Where's your AC condenser on the outside? The air conditioner condenser on the outside?
It is that,
No, that's for your house. Where is it going for here?
probably under the stairs.
Okay. So I can add, so the applicant is saying that it is gonna go underneath the stairwell, so it'd be, kind of obscured from the neighboring properties.
But right now, that's not particularly indicated on your documents.
No, and we can get that added between now and the second hearing.
Thank you very much, thank you. That's all I have for this moment.
Commissioner Taylor.
Michael mentioned having instead of doing a full AC unit, we were possibly just going to do a
Good
mini
mini
split.
split. Okay.
Could you go through a wall detail a little more in detail?
I'm sorry, for
Could you
which
go through
part?
the wall detail in a little more detail?
So, you are looking. Is this what we're requesting?
Yes.
Okay.
Just, you start at the top or the bottom and work your way up or down.
Actually, so we're just doing the typical footers with the concrete block wall up to a total of 9'4", and then we're gonna switch over to traditional wood framing on the second floor with typical window detailing, and then going into your truss systems. The overhangs are gonna be approximately 2-foot overhangs with exposed rafter tails. Everything's gonna be on grade. There's not any height adjustment for the garage floor from the grade of the site.
Okay, and you're gonna set the windows back, it looks like maybe a couple of inches?
Right, since it's gonna be traditional 2x4 construction, it's not gonna have the deep like you would with a CMU.
It's not going to have the.
No, it's gonna be a traditional depth.
So are you looking to install this window flush mount like a typical new construction vinyl window would be, or are you looking to inset that?
As it is right now, it's gonna be done as a traditional new construction window.
Okay. I saw on your material palette that you had doors picked out, but I did not see a sample window. I see a series.
Correct, so that's the series is the same as the current existing structure on the front.
Okay.
So they're gonna mimic the same size, scale, and product.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Commissioner Brokaw.
Could you put up the elevations, please?
Sure.
One of the things I just noted is that it appears that the garage is being raised up from grade, whereas you just stated that the garage is not going to be above grade. Is there a theory behind that?
I mean, it has to stay level with the driveway, so we're just gonna stay consistent.
But that's not as drawn.
Hold on a second. Let me pull the elevation on it. So talking about the slab elevation for the finished floor is 45.48. The existing floor elevation for the home is 45.3. So we're within.
Can you zoom into this drawing that you have here? There's some elevations to the left, and then,
No, the top one.
The upper one. You see how you have elevations on the left and the right? There you go.
Correct. So the existing home, it has the call out for 45.58, and then it has the garage, so the call out is there.
I understand that the existing house is above grade, it's raised above grade on a crawl space. The garage slab is being called out to be raised above existing.
Street.
Is it existing grade or is it street? I'm not clear. It's not clear.
So the home is on a stem on monolithic slab. It's not on a crawl, so it does have, I think it's like one row of block.
The house is.
The house is, the
Right,
existing home
and
is.
we're not talking about the
Right.
house. We're talking about
the
this
addition
garage,
onto it.
and there's a slope off to the side to show it to be above grade, at least that's how it's graphically shown. I'm just asking why that is.
Well, on this one, from what I understand of the architect, they're showing that going to a French drain for your drainage, so that you're not throwing off onto any other properties. So that's where their downspouts are coming right here, and then it's going into the French drain. So my guess is that the architect's trying to push it all into that French drain, so it's not throwing onto other homes.
Drains already
Okay,
exist. There's 4 foot above the yard.
keep this
existing.
slide right here. I'm just trying to understand. This is saying the garage slab elevation is at 4558, and the existing grade elevations are shown at 42.7. So we're talking about almost a 3 feet elevation of the garage from the existing grade. I'm asking
Right.
why? I'm just asking why.
I don't have the answer to that today.
The ground slopes from the
From
back
the
of the
front, so you have a,
It goes down to the back of the fence, it slopes down, and so the garage is on par and on grade with the existing driveway to handle the existing slope of the yard.
Got
Which is
it.
why the drains that are already existing right there.
okay. Were you able to hear that?
No.
Step up.
The current slope of the property goes from the back of the house to the back of the property line does slope down. And so the garage and concrete addition leading to the garage bays are going to stay on the same level as the existing driveway and concrete pad that are already there on the side of the house. And the ground drains that are indicated are already in place. They were put in place with the original construction of the house.
Okay.
Can you move this drawing up so we can see the elevation on the existing drive portion?
Yeah, is there a grading for the existing drive?
That's what I was looking for too.
There isn't. Because these are all still showing that the adjacent grades are at 42 point something, and the garage is at 45 point something, which is a considerable
Right.
elevation of a garage slab.
Right.
And there doesn't seem to be a clear indication as to why,
Right.
without knowing what the driveway grade is. But I think the driveway grade is probably close to 42.7 or 42.8. But it's existing, yeah, that's at grade, right, 42.8 at grade.
Can
there.
you show an image of the back of the house, of the property? I think you had that in one of yours, or was that
don't.
Elaine?
Are you talking about from the staff
No,
report?
an actual image,
Photograph.
photograph.
I believe staff has it. I don't have it with
Can you switch?
me.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, it's relatively level. I'm just not, I guess
Right. I know, I see exactly.
that it would be, that the garage would be at 43, maybe at the highest, and not 45 point something. That's several feet above. And-
Correct.
And I'm not saying there's anything,
Right.
that we have a concern with, other than that may be a mistake on the
I
construction documents part,
absolutely
and that we don't want to approve a mistake.
correct. Is this something that can be corrected between first and a second hearing?
We have to discuss it and determine what
Okay.
we need.
Yeah, I think that clarification from the architect on the slab elevation would be helpful for all involved.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. If we could switch back to the other prompter. Thank you, Ron. Could you put up your, the sheet you have with all the materials, the door, the window, and all that? I didn't see anything that showed hardware. Do you have hardware selected at this time?
Do you have any hardware selected?
No, whatever will match the existing house.
Okay,
Yeah. We're basically going to, everything that was approved when the house was constructed 2 years ago, we're going to mimic exactly.
and then on the trellis canopy feature that you're doing over the garage, what's the material there for that system?
For your trellis?
I know it was in
over
your
the
wall
garage?
section, but that didn't get called out.
Either wood or similar, but I think it's going to be solid wood.
There is not a call out. The applicant is indicating wood.
So the actual structure, the trellis itself, was going to be solid pine or outdoor material.
It was gonna be wood.
The solid
It was
wood.
gonna be wood.
It was gonna be wood. Do you have any details of the stair and railing system for that on any of those drawings?
So the detail provided by the architect is showing wood or composite stair and railing painted.
But there's nowhere that it indicates the size of the elements that are to be used for the railing system or the stair treads, risers.
So all that they've indicated so far, did you have any material list for your stairs and the treads? Is
No.
it Trex or is it wood?
I think he said either composite, so it might be the Trex, just so it's more weather resistant, but I don't know for sure.
But at this time, there are no details that tell us the scale of the pieces or anything.
There's currently no scale of the proposed
Okay.
railing system.
All right, that's it for my questions. Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
I do have one additional question,
Mr.
please.
Sutton?
I note from your building sections that you're intending something on the order of a 2-foot overhang for your roof as well as for its eaves. Is that a similar dimension that we have on the existing dwelling?
Yeah, so it's the staff indicated that they were looking for the larger rafter tails, so it's indicated as 2x8s.
Because I can understand the addition of the rafter tails, that for a subservient building in a collection on a domestic site like this, typically what is seen is, if you will, smaller detailing in some regard. Overhangs are typically smaller than what we normally would see on the main domestic dwelling in itself. So, as an example, instead of having 2 feet, it's 16 inches or something of that nature. Have you explored that nature of scale? One perhaps more appropriate to the accessory structure as opposed to just purely mimicking the larger main dwelling structure?
So are you speaking in regards to shortening up the overhangs,
Yeah.
or, okay. When they went and redid the rafters, were they smaller overhangs originally, or
There were smaller overhangs.
so it looks like the original plan was, and the request was
Are you
to,
talking about like the width of the overhang off the side of the house? Yeah, it was, what is it now, like 2 feet?
yeah,
I think it was like 12 inches or something before, maybe 18, and we extended it to 24. Because I think it's a little bit less than the original structure on the main house is like maybe 24, maybe a little bit over. And so we wanted to keep it in scale with what's, again, on the house, I think.
And so the request would be to shorten that up a bit?
Something to coordinate. Because as you can see from your main front building elevation, you know, the lower half of this sheet, there is a certain relationship between the main building and the accessory structure. But the accessory structure is also diminutive in that relationship as well,
Right.
too. Some of the key details may need to be coordinated into that more diminutive area.
Okay. In regards to that, would it make sense to also reduce the size of the width of the rafters down to something smaller too? So if your overhang's shortening up, would you also want the materials to get smaller as well? Like, so instead of being 2x8s to be like 2x6s, like, so that it doesn't feel
As clunky,
right?
perhaps, yes.
Okay.
I think that would be something to be determined in concert between yourself and your design architect.
Okay.
That is all I have at this point.
Any other questions? All right, so you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. You can add anything into the record or any information that you've thought of that you didn't cover yet.
Right, I think at this time, the applicant has gone to really great lengths to communicate with the neighboring, all of his neighbors, to ensure that they were okay with this design. I didn't see any feedback or any questions from the board that seemed out of the norm or what could be addressed between now and the second hearing. I think that there's a willingness on the applicant's part to make any changes or adjustments to make it consistent with the neighborhood. He's shown ability to go in, make changes, and are you open to making any changes to make it go?
Yeah, if needed, yeah.
So I think there's a willingness on the side of the applicant to make these changes per the recommendations of the board.
All right.
Anything you want to add?
The only other question was about that, because the design is for the height.
the-
I'm not sure he's saying which is dependent on which.
Design exception 1-22-269 for the height of the accessory dwelling unit. They're under the impression that design exception 1 approval is ready, but it's contingent on the ARC approval. And is that the case, or?
Elaine, can you explain how that works? Because you're much better equipped.
Regarding the design exception, that application has been submitted. It is the status, I believe, for the, it does get routed to our division for review. And if this commission approves the CA contingent upon the approval of the design exception, then staff will put in a comment in our review that our staff review of the design exception will be approved because the CA was approved.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Completely, that
Okay.
makes sense, okay. I will pass that along to him.
It sounds a little convoluted every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I understand
All
that.
right, great. Any other?
In spite of the convolution, though, we are dealing with the conventional height exception for this as permitted under the zoning ordinances for this district and not a variance, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So,
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. It's not a variance for this board to consider, it's a waiver of the code provision for the staff to make that determination.
I do understand,
Okay.
yes.
Got it.
any other
No, I think we're good.
comments? Okay,
Awesome,
so
thanks,
we're gonna
guys.
close the public hearing, and we're gonna just discuss the case.
Awesome, thank you.
Any comments about anything that was stated or questioned? I think when it comes to the comment about the overhangs, I agree. Typically, when we look at accessory structures, they are a little bit more diminutive than the overhangs. And so I agree with that discussion piece, and I think if they were to head down that track, then yeah, they should readdress, you know, the rafters, sizing, the bird rafters, those sorts of things. But it's
sounds-
not a big deal, I think, in my mind.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal either. I think it was they actually presented it that way originally, and apparently were told to make it a little larger and deeper and bigger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think even a happy compromise of 18 inches or something might be fine, but, you know, it's not a make or break.
Yeah, we don't have a magic number. I think
Yeah.
that's something for them to determine. You know, I think overall, the whole nature of this accessory structure is really quite a handsome, little building in many respects. Just a number of details that need to get ironed out, and probably more likely with staff. Obviously, we have the hardware issue. But, you know, we have, you know, the wood detailing for the trellis as well as for the stairs that needs to get ironed out. I think that's an item that we need to talk about. Well, obviously, the finished floor elevation with respect to the existing grade and drainage needs to be revisited, because I think they're popping themselves way up too far in the air as well for your typical situation for an accessory structure. I grant that, yeah, there is some, you know, drainage issues to contend with, but not 2 to 3 feet of material.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that, one, it isn't a contributing structure, and two, it's copying similar details to what was already approved, and that it's in subservient scale to the main house, and, you know, all those kind
Those
of,
things we look for.
all those big ticket items, it's all, that's taken care of. And I just think there's a number of small conditions that definitely need to be met, but that otherwise it's an elegant little building.
Commissioner Taylor, any comments, concerns?
They've gone to great lengths to make it look almost identical to the house. I mean, to me, there's some elements that I think they could actually pull back a little bit. Obviously, that's between them and their designer, as we said, but
Yeah.
I actually think that by doing some of those changes that you mentioned, that would, in a sense, accent the home rather than take the attention to the accessory structure. By bringing it down to grade, I think that's one condition that we definitely need to place in there. And then the only other thing that I saw, and y'all have already hit on it, was the details for the stairs and the trellis, which is something that they can coordinate with
And the railing.
staff.
And then just getting the AC unit indicated in the drawing somewhere for the garage, and then.
And the pavement detailing.
Yeah, clearly delineating
scoring.
what's new, and then working out the scoring. Yeah.
Those are the items I had written down.
All right, anyone willing to entertain a motion at this time?
I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented to this public hearing in ARC 22404 for the property at 508 Sparkman Avenue East, with the following conditions: that final detailing be reviewed and approved by staff of the scoring on the driveway paving, of the location of the AC under the stairs, of door hardware that matches the existing house, a very clear clarification of the slab elevation of the garage, stair details, and pergola details over the garage doors, and also that they consider just a small shortening of the overhang dimension.
I would like to amend that by including the railing system as well. Details for the railing.
Stair
system.
details. I
Well,
consider.
a stair could be.
Okay, stair and railing details.
Thank you.
Because,
Well, and you also have a condition for the design exception.
and you're correct, I actually had circled that, and didn't include it. And that they obtain design exception for the height. Because based upon finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the, you caught me, Seminole Heights?
Tampa Heights.
Tampa Heights design guidelines, of the City of Tampa for the following reasons, because they're in compliance with the City of Tampa Chapter 27 ordinances, the pre-mentioned design reference standards, design guideline reference standards, and the Secretary of Interior standards.
And a second, please.
I will second that motion.
Before we vote on that, could one of you come up to the microphone, please? We just want to make sure you understand the conditions that were put forth in the motion.
I'm gonna transcribe to him, I'm talking to it so he can hear it. So from my understanding, it was to get clarification of the elevation of the garage floor, to get the materials and clarifications on your trellis,
Okay.
ensure that your hardware matches that of the existing structure,
Okay.
clarification on the plan of the location of the HVAC exterior
Okay.
unit underneath the stairs, and size and scale of the stair and railing system, and shorten the sizing of the overhangs, and they
By how much?
insist that they'll have the recommendations in their
Okay.
findings.
Yeah, that's, all of that is fine.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Happy holiday.
Thank you, you too.
Okay. Commissioners, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. The next item on the agenda this evening is case ARC 22-457 for the property located at 204 East Adderley Street, again in the Tampa Heights Historic District. This is currently a vacant parcel, and the request is for new construction of a single-family residence with site improvements. Moving to the photo presentation. Thank you. Here you see the map of the Tampa Heights Historic District. The subject property is at the north end of the district, shown here in green. And again, you can see it is within the red line, the local historic district boundary. This is the 1920 Sandbar map showing that at that time there was a property located on the site, a residence on Adderley Street. This is just between, it's on the north side of Adderley Street, shown between Florida Avenue and North Morgan Street. And this is the present day aerial of the site, again, on Adderley Street on the north side there. And this is a view looking north into the subject property. This is looking directly to the east. And then to the property to the west. And across the street, there's some new construction going on. There were 3 buildings recently approved by this board on the south side of Adderley. And you can see those, the other 2 there in this view that's looking east along Adderley toward Morgan Street. And then this view is looking west on Adderley toward Florida Avenue. That is the sum of the photo presentation, so at this time I'll ask the applicant to present the request. Actually, they need this one.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening. Happy holidays. My name is Ryan Pick, RP Contracting and Coatings, and Stefano Gaga.
Stefano Gaga, I'm the, from Dorset Group, I'm the homeowner, property owner.
And thanks for having us tonight. We're for 204 East Adderley. To start with the scale and height and the width, the proportions and the size of the new buildings, showing here on Adderley Street, where it's the block, the block average compared to the other buildings. Go ahead,
Well, as you can see, what we basically did was we took there was an existing building to the right of us, 2 buildings to the right of us, and as previously mentioned, there's three new developments across the street from us. So what we did was we measured from the street to the front of the buildings across the street, in conjunction with our neighbors, to get our block average setback, which is about 27.9 feet from the street. So we set our building back, our front wall, with the same setbacks to match the neighbors next to us and also across the street for the new developments of what's being built.
For the next one here.
So that's how we got our average block setback, by calculating the neighboring buildings. This is the site plan. As you can see, we're having to use the alleyway in the back for parking. This parking pad has previously been approved by transportation. There is a slight problem with the alleyway in the back, as it's not vacated by the city, but on the side that's closest to Florida Avenue, there are 2 grand oak trees that are blocking access from Florida Avenue into the alleyway. But from Morgan Street, there is access from Morgan Street. Only problem is, due to the lot being vacant for so long, the neighbors have encroached into the alleyway and they parked their vehicles in the alleyway. Plus, there's on the north side, on the back of this building, there's a big junkyard or something. I think maybe a towing company, and they put a bunch of containers kind of encroaching into the alleyway. So we're gonna be working with code enforcement to kind of open the alleyway up so we have access from Morgan Street so we can park. Part of the contingency from the city after meeting with staff is that we will have to rehab the whole entire back alleyway, which we're okay with doing. But it's gonna be up to where the tree obviously ends, because we can't remove the 2 grand oaks in the rear. Our side setbacks are consistent with design restrictions in the neighborhood, in the district. So that's we do have swales for water retention on the property, but I was asked to remove it for the sake of this presentation. So that's the site plan.
So for alignment, rhythm, and spacing, this is the front and rear elevation. We've changed the windows from the original design on the front and back. We've added double windows throughout and made and have changed the roof structure pretty much altogether, along with the front porch being more symmetrical. As far as materials for the exterior, we were going to use, we'd like to use white painted casing, window casing, hardy siding, hardy shaker siding, and like a natural wood, like a cedar accent, possibly on the ceilings of the patio, and somewhere in the detail in the columns. The window. I think we got, I've covered that, right? And quality with the design. What do you think?
This is the side elevations of the home, showing the, I guess, the east and west of the home. As you can see, all double windows are encased with what we probably want to use a cedar, true 1x material recessed installation with a 6-inch separation between all double windows. You can see the location of the AC pad from the side elevation. Is on the right-hand side, which will be behind the fence, where we're gonna have a vinyl fence on the side of the property. The rear of the property will have some kind of about 6-foot iron fence for privacy. So with a sliding gate, so you can pull your car into the onto the parking pad. And on the side of the properties, we'll have where the fence deadens into the property, which will hide the AC and also the solid waste and recycling bins from view of the from the street.
We also noted on the drawing that we're doing a true 1x8s on the rafters on the end caps, and I believe there's one in the middle as well. As far as roof material, we were looking to mimic what is in the area and architectural, three-dimensional architectural shingle roof.
Should be down there so you can kind of see. The color we're thinking is probably something like a darker, like a charcoal or darker colored roof, which is kind of consistent with what's going on in the neighborhood with the new builds right now. As mentioned, there's 3 going across the street, and they all have similar color roofs is what we kind of picked. So we're kind of staying consistent with the neighborhood.
Front entry.
Want to turn it? Okay. So this is an example of our front entry, minus I would say the column detail and the flooring. This is strictly for the style of the door and to the lighting, the welcome lighting, and also to illustrate the tongue groove pine on the ceiling of the porch. This illustrates the style front door we're looking to incorporate into the building. This is an example of the exterior lighting that we would like to use on the side of the doors for the neighborhood. And that's an example of the siding. It'll just be a hardy board siding. And this is the exterior hardware for the doors. Just a black iron.
As far as the windows, we're using CWS windows. There's a detail. I don't believe we have an actual photo. It's a white vinyl impact, and we purchased them a while ago, quite some time ago. So we're trying to accommodate for the windows. So the mulligan, the mold that came with the window system is like it's 3/4 inch fastening, and I was speaking with the representative. She said we could possibly use a post or block to accommodate your separation between the double windows. And you have anything? Okay. You have anything else? Anything else?
I think that's ready.
Yeah, that should be it. All right, well, thank you very much. Believe that. Do you have any questions?
We will,
Okay.
but we have to let staff report be read, so we're gonna move back to Elaine and let her
Thank you.
walk us through that.
Thank you. Historic preservation staff finds this application consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines. There were some conditions noted in the staff report, And I believe the applicant has made an effort to address these. I think that, I don't believe we saw the wall section of this presentation, so you may request to review that as well. I'd also like to note that Stephen Eister with Natural Resources is here if you have any questions regarding any trees on the site or off the site.
We do have the wall sections and column details.
Okay, so when we get to the question portion, we'll let you show us the wall section and walk through that with you, okay? Elaine, that concludes your report?
Yes.
All right, we'll now open up the hearing to public comment. If there's anyone here for or against the project who'd like to come forward. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move on to the questions by the commissioners, starting on my right, this time with Mr. Prokop.
You brought up on your site plan that you were taking the average of the adjacent houses and the houses across the street for the front setback. What is your zoning setback? What is your required setback by zoning of your property? Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure what that is, but there was nothing that was actually, might have been 20, can you go back to the site plan?
Yeah.
The setback? I think it was like 20, I want to say it's 25, was what zoning might have been, 25 in the front and 7 on the sides. But I think per the block average, we had to extend that a little bit because other houses weren't 25.
Okay. All right. You mentioned fencing, but we don't see any drawings of
Yeah, it's
fencing
on the-
or elevations of
It's on
fencing?
the site plan right here.
Okay. Can you zoom into the actual site plan? And maybe turn it sideways so that it fits on the screen a little bit better? Yeah. Okay. Now, can you tell us where all the fencing was going and what types they are?
So it's gonna be vinyl fencing on the side of the property.
And returning into the house,
And it's
into the front house.
Front of the house. And at the back of the property will be a 6-foot iron fence with privacy gate to access the parking pad on the rear of the property.
Do you have, where does it return to the house?
It returns just in front, just,
It's hard to see, it's the dot where the arrow is pointing on the left, or on the bottom side.
You can put your finger on it. You can put your finger on the screen. And just, I mean, leave this drawing there, but you can
Right
put your
here.
finger on the screen where the fence is returning to the house.
Right there.
Okay, so it's coming to the front edge, to the
Yes,
front face of the house.
Yes, the front, yes.
At the back
Front
of the
edge,
porch
but
of the
behind
front
the
fence
porch,
is where
yes.
you're intending it.
yes.
Would you consider moving that fence back from the front face of the house a bit and recessing it back?
Yeah.
To allow the house to have kind of like a front and a corner turn sides before you hit a fence?
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't know exactly what the requirements was for how far it can come or where it should dead into the house, so I think the architect just put it right where the porch was at.
It's a little subjective, but, you know, traditionally in these neighborhoods, in your neighborhood even, the fences are back from the front of the house a bit, traditionally. But there's no given dimension that you have to meet,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So what do you recommend as far as like how much of the front of the home would you like to see? Maybe like
scooch.
a 6 foot?
Like a panel, one panel.
A scooch? A scooch?
A scooch.
A scooch, okay.
It's actually gonna have to take a little bit of discussion with your designer to look
Okay.
at what you're doing in your elevations to figure out what the best
What's
spot
best
is.
We're gonna have to
place?
find out where.
And-
like-
and
It's
also-
not 5 feet, I can tell you, it's not 5 feet.
It's not 5 feet.
And other
We
houses.
may have a window right in the area as well, so.
Right, and other
We'll have
houses in the neighborhood.
Okay.
As there'll be some precedent in your neighborhood
Got it.
to an
Right.
extent.
Right. Split the windows.
Would it be?
The intention of the comment is so that, you know, when you take a look at your house, front, as well as you're walking down the street, not only do you should be somewhere beyond that corner so that you can have that visual wrap, your house belonging on its site, on its street.
Understood.
So if you can see from the side elevations of the home, there are actually windows towards the front of the home. Only place we could probably dead into the house without it being obstructing the windows, I'm thinking probably somewhere between here,
That would be
and
something.
then also somewhere between here, adjacent.
That'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It would work.
Those
That
would
would work.
Okay.
You did bring up something about window mullions, and I wasn't clear what you were discussing there. You had a picture. There aren't any mullions on these elevations.
So, when we originally designed this home, we went off another elevation and plan that we were building in Ybor City. I guess the design restrictions are a little bit different to Ybor to Tampa Heights. So we have double windows, which in Ybor, 2 windows are allowed next to each other. Well, unfortunately, in Tampa Heights, there has to be some kind of separation between double windows, which is 6 inches. We had previously purchased our windows. We did a massive window purchase probably like a year ago when we were building one of our homes. And unfortunately, the windows we purchased for this home, the double ones, did not have the space for the 6-inch separation. So we were talking to the manufacturers, and they said that if you guys would allow it, we could take the windows and separate them by a 6-inch piece of block.
Or
And then-
or a wood post or something.
Or
Yeah,
post,
there's
yes,
a-
or post.
yeah, PT post
Okay,
and,
so we're not talking about mullions. The mullions are
No.
what divide the glass in the window itself,
No.
so we're not really talking about
not
mullions
the,
in the
not,
windows.
the grate, the decorative
I
grate,
was
no.
just-
It's just, it's the device that will fasten the 2 windows together if they're together.
That's
So-
framing
So,
rather than mullions.
We
I
need
just wanted
to-
to clarify that phrase, because you used the
yeah.
word mullions and I didn't see any mullions.
sorry, yeah,
Okay.
we changed it.
Now would be a good time to bring up your wall sections.
Okay. Wait, hold on a second. Want to zoom in and turn it? That way we can focus on one at a time.
Yeah, that helps to turn sideways and to be a little more detailed on that.
Rotate it. Is,
This way?
so that we can read it
We can read it? Okay.
that way. Yes, please. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Let's start up.
Okay. We're just, all of us are looking at this now.
So if you could just walk us through the wall section, explain the framing, explain materials, overhangs, those sorts of things. You may have said some of them already in your presentation, but if you could walk through the wall section and delineate certain
Okay, we'll
features
start from the
for us.
bottom.
Absolutely.
We're going to stem wall foundation, but and block on first floor block. With the stem wall, we are looking to create a crawl space look. We're looking to create a crawl space look. And then moving up, we're block framing, wood, hardy siding, painted, wood casings on windows.
Second floor is framed.
Yeah, second floor, wood framing. And
2-foot overhang on the rafters with a hardy, it's a 2-foot overhang on the rafters with a hardy boards, material soffit. It is an exposed rafter. We have, I'm not sure if this detail shows it, but starting from the bottom, like Ryan mentioned, we are looking to mimic a crawl space look, which is basically going to be the foundation. Above that will be a bit of hardy board banding before we start the siding. And there'll be a separation from the first floor elevation, the second floor elevation with another piece of hardy board banding, as you can tell from here. And then
No, you could keep that there for a
We're gonna
second.
put
while you're there. What is beneath the hardy board banding? What's number 7?
Number 7 is concrete. It's the,
Okay, so
the
it's
foundation.
painted concrete, stucco concrete.
It's stucco concrete to look like a crawl space. We're gonna have, the details not here because my architect didn't have time to add it, but the 4 posts of the house, we are gonna have the same kind of decorative brick we have on the columns to kind of mimic like it's on posts, similar to what the builders across the street did.
So there would be other things added to here. There would be faux brick pilasters.
Yes.
To that,
Yes.
to number 7.
To number 7 to give it that standing on crawl space look. And I think honestly, that was in the actual details that he sent, but for some reason when we print them, it washes everything away. So when you zoom in, it kind of takes a detail away. I'm not sure why, but I mean, as you can tell, like we've been having kind of slight problems seeing the lines for the siding. I'm not sure why.
Are you planning to step that footer in or out at that location, or are you just planning to put the brick on top of the existing stem wall just to give it that half-inch reveal, or what is the reveal you envision? Being we don't have the detail to look at it.
We plan on just putting the brick on the actual stem wall to give it the half-inch reveal you're talking about, so we can kind of so it looks like it's actually sitting on brick stilts.
So is it a true brick or is it a paver?
It's a facing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions myself.
On that window detail on the construction side, what is your plan for installation as far as stepping that window back into the framing itself? You've given us your description of what you plan to do as far as dividing the windows separately. That can be achieved, but I would like to know if you're planning to mount these, flush to the face of the sheathing, or if you're looking to step these back.
We're looking to step them back.
Recessed.
Step them
Okay.
back, yeah.
Yeah, ideally, the windows on the first floor that are set in masonry, the face of those and the face of the ones on the second
Exact
floor
same.
should be in the same plane.
Correct.
Right.
And I think we have that, if you look at the detail, as you can see, the bottom one is, you can see where it's recessed in, like, kind of like right here. Then we have the exact same spot on the second floor framing. So they both will be, that was something that I worked with Mrs. Lund on, because when it was originally drawn, the architect had the downstairs elevation recessed and upstairs back, so we made sure they were both in line, and they'll both be both encased in the same material, a true one-by material, and we'll wonder if you guys had any problem with us encasing in cedar. Is that okay? Or does it have to be like a hardy siding encasement?
We don't really, when it, wood or hardy, that's gonna be a personal preference for you guys.
Okay.
I would like to know, as far as your seal is concerned, what are you planning to do there?
Okay, it's right here. If you want to upload, if you want to, it's a true.
Matching with the rest of the casing.
Yeah, green. So
So there'll be a faux seal, if you will, to give us a look.
be a faux seal, but it'll be a real wood seal.
Okay.
I think a 1x2. I think it's gonna be a 1x2 seal. And we're basically, like I said, there's other construction going on in the neighborhood. There's been a lot of new construction going on, plus previously constructed homes in the last few years. So we've driven around and seen what's going on in the neighborhood. So we're kind of mimicking exactly what we see to keep the neighborhood design kind of congruent with everything that's going on in the development out down there.
Yeah, I think you're headed definitely in the right direction here. I'm asking for some of these details just so we have them on the record.
Okay.
Because the drawings themselves are lacking a few, so I'm
Yeah.
just trying to make sure we get those on the record.
You know, when
You mentioned your column base will also be wrapped in that same brick?
Correct.
Okay.
The column base will be wrapped in that brick, yes.
The foundation, you mentioned stucco. I'm assuming there again, just a direct applied stucco to the block?
Sand finish, yes.
Okay.
Sand finish. Our porch will be a concrete porch, painted concrete porch. With,
Are you planning on being we're back at the front porch, pull up your site plan and show us the walkway out to the road if there is one.
okay, that's this one right here. To the right, right there, up, right there, yeah. That's our walkway out to the road, to the sidewalk. As you can see, we didn't opt to do any kind of cuts, or we just chose to do a full stair. I think it looks a little better that way. I don't really like the narrow to wider. I kind of like the look of having a larger walkway. It's a little more, even though there's no ramp, it's a little more handicap accessible too. What I think.
We would probably ask just to, that obviously you're gonna have some scoring, because you're gonna need it for contraction
Yeah.
reasons, but there's just none here on the drawing itself.
Yeah, it wouldn't be one full slab. It would definitely be some scoring with it.
To clarify, you do not have any fence details tonight here with you, do you?
Not with us, but it's just a 6-foot vinyl fence
Okay.
on the side elevation of the properties of the homes, which, like I said, deads into the front. Per design restrictions, we're not allowed to have any kind of fencing in the front of the home, which exceeds a certain, well, I guess we can, it must be like, what, 4 feet smaller. We opted not to go with that. The rear fence is just gonna be a wrought iron kind of security fence with a sliding gate, so you can get your car in there and have some kind of protection from your backyard. The reason we're not opting to use a vinyl fence in the back is because of the alleyway. We want the person who's going in and out to be able to see what's going on in the alleyway. If we did do like a vinyl fence, it kind of blocks, even though there is no access to the left side of the property, back here, even though back here, there's no access over here in the alleyway, I just didn't want the view to be obstructed for anyone trying to, because that is a very narrow alley. It's only 11 feet, So, and like I said, the towing company on the back end, they have their fence literally right on there, and they have like a big container. So just for safety, I wanted, to be able to see what's going on in the alleyway at all times. So we chose to use like an opaque fence and not something that's, vinyl.
And you don't have any cut sheets, any pictures that show us your intent?
I do not. I wasn't asked on per the ARC letter. The materials they asked for is what we presented today. I could probably pull up something on my phone to show you an idea of what we want to do.
Is it gonna be a 4-foot fence, 6-foot fence?
6-foot fence, black raw iron.
So just like a square picket?
Yeah, it's like a square picket fence going up, and just with a sliding gate.
And you're saying wrought iron, I'm assuming you're probably gonna go aluminum
Like a black aluminum.
with a
yes.
wrought iron
Yeah,
look.
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm from
Cost
England,
perspective.
so, yeah.
We'll just call it metal.
Metal, yeah.
It'll be fine. But the intent are 1 by square?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And again, some of these questions we're asking just for clarification and to get on the record, so.
Yeah. Nothing ornate, nothing Mediterranean looking, just straight up and down post, 1 by.
The only other clarification or question I have for clarification was, I know by looking at the drawing, you meant to say 2 by on your rafter tails, but
Yes.
1 by was said.
Yeah, 2 by. The rafter tails
It is
are
gonna be
2
a
by
2
8.
by.
Yes, it is 2 by. The barge rafters will be a 2 by, yes.
The only other question I've got, and this is just for our own information, is for our representative from the city that's here from the tree or natural resources department.
Stephen Hester. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Stephen Eister with Natural Resources.
My only reason for asking you up here is just to get some form of, just a little more information. I understand that the trees are at the entrance of this alleyway on one side. Kind of want to know a little more about how this affects this drive and as far as direction of traffic and
Yeah, so I'll show you guys. So these are the trees currently at the end of the alley on Florida. When I went out there to measure them, they're both over 60 inches around, so they both qualify as grand trees. They're both in good shape, even with everything going on around them. What they did say about accessing the other side of the alley is true as well. So this is what the view looks like from the other side. There's no tree conflicts from that way, but you do have people parking. You have a Connex box there, which are all code enforcement issues. That alley should be clear for them to be able to just drive through and access it.
okay.
So that's kind of why.
And so none of this construction really is going to affect these trees. Unfortunately, the trees are just in the way of a two-way
Yep,
alley.
correct. So they can't access it from Florida. They have to go on, I think is it May? Yeah, on the other side.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
But it also makes it a nice quiet alley.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Are we able to, since, you know, the grand trees are there, do you guys have any reservations to us actually putting a fence on the alley to block the trees off to kind of protect it from?
That's not under our purview, and you'd have to talk to the city about that, which is not us.
Okay.
I don't think I had, do you have any other questions, anyone for the applicants?
I have a couple questions, please. If you would please pull up your front elevation. You can zoom into the top elevation here for a moment. Element number one, and it's kind of, it's drawn correctly, but it doesn't show correctly because what we see here are your entry stairs, wide stairs matching your pavement, and they span from column to column. But these stairs are actually in front of those column piers.
Correct. And we have an elevation for that right here. If you want to show me this right here. We have a front column.
Okay, so it's a combination of both, in part and in whole.
Yeah.
So you actually have a full elevation rise, if you will, within your landscape before we get into the envelope of your building.
Correct.
I think perhaps you might be missing an element here. I don't know if you've taken a look at it. Are you familiar with the idea of what they call a welcome wall?
I am familiar with a welcome wall, but we didn't want to do a welcome wall just because we wanted to set ourselves a little bit apart from the homes being built across the street. We didn't want to just look like everyone else in the neighborhood, so we kind of just didn't do a welcome wall because the 3 homes that are being built do have welcome walls. So just for that look, I mean, because the houses are very similar already, just because of the neighborhood, we just decided to not do a welcome wall just for that reason. But if it's required, then we can add it back in. But that was just something to set us apart from what Shane and Viking Homes is building.
The reason why I bring it up is that in the Tampa Heights area, you know, we have buildings, new and old, with welcome walls and without. And I was trying to determine what how you came about the decision for not having really quite a popular item in many respects.
It was only just to differentiate from what's going on in the street.
Okay.
You know, that was the only reason. Nothing.
Fair enough reason. Fair enough reason. So can we return to your elevation? I have one other question, please. On your second level, smack dab in the middle, is a detail where you are producing a box-like element with a small pediment above it for these 2 windows.
Correct.
if I recall from your other elevations and through your sections, this is actually a very, very shallow item.
Yes, because it is not a functional window. It is strictly there to break up the mass between the two windows. There was a big space in the middle, and after speaking with Dennis and Elaine Lund, they advised that we should put something there to break up the mass between the front elevation because those two windows are actually two bedrooms upstairs. And how it was originally, that was just siding. And they said that it was too much of a mass between it and that we should break it up with something. So what we decided to do was, it's a faux window and it's actually framed out 8 inches. And the window is set into it so that that middle part is actually protruding 8 inches from the wall.
But those are actually functioning windows.
They're not functioning windows. They're
not
faux,
functional
they're faux windows, yes.
They're faux
They're
windows.
faux windows, yeah. It's expensive. It's an expensive.
This is the interior, how it's laid out.
So this is the interior. Oh, we're gonna go upstairs. It's downstairs. Next one. So if you notice, those windows are actually in closets upstairs and also halfway where. And the reason for that is because of where the stairs for the house is to get to the second level. We were unable to put a functional window there because of that reason, and also because of the bedroom sizes, and yeah, it's literally a faux window.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Is there, where that wall, the separation wall you've got there between the 2 bedrooms that's at the back side of these stairs, is there some closets there or something?
That's the back of the closets in the bedroom. If you
Okay.
notice, you see the
I see it now, yeah.
yeah.
I see
Shallow
it.
closets
Shallow
and then
closets
it's
here on both.
a little bit bigger.
Can I just jump in?
Go ahead.
Would you consider making those windows functional and even having windows into rather than blocking them out and spending all that money and not having light? I've put windows into closets, and they actually are very nice to walk into a closet
Well then, yeah.
that has some natural light in it.
We would. Only problem is that the way the layouts of the rooms are upstairs, it's gonna be kind of more towards one side of the closet. It won't be exactly like if you walk in the closet, it'd be like
I
maybe
understand.
three thirds of the window showing, and 1/3 would be
No,
like dead space.
Just a question.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily mean that the windows would have to be centered on the exterior elevation. A lot of times what you see in historic homes is they correspond to the function in the home. And you will find elevations that aren't completely symmetrical.
Then I thought it had to be symmetrical.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so
We
we
had
can.
a big discussion Monday about symmetry
Another-
and asymmetry. And then the other thing is, if you were to consider that, consider the size of the windows. I know that you bought a whole package deal, but oftentimes when you see windows in closet spaces, they're a different scale because they respond to the scale of the space that they're in.
I'm
Right?
actually glad you said that because we have not purchased those windows yet. We're going to purchase those windows because we had to add this. So if you say we can make them smaller and offset it, then that's even better. We can make them functional, maybe put it in the closet that we can set off to the
And
side.
you're gonna get a buyer that's gonna just love the fact that they have light in their closets, especially if they have, well, even men enjoy light in their closets, so, I won't say if they have girls, but anyway. It's a great asset and amenity for a lot of people, I think, just having that surprise sometimes, so,
And,
it's just a thought.
Okay.
and you may even be missing an opportunity here where, I've seen historic homes where the 2 bedrooms, like in this scenario, actually had a hallway, if you will, that connected the 2.
Jack and Jill.
It really isn't a Jack and Jill. I've always been told it was actually used for the nanny at night to be able to go between the kids' rooms so they didn't disturb the master in the master bedroom. But it may seem like wasted space, but it actually tends to be a good spot to be able to put another dresser, or
idea.
there's opportunity here, I
Yeah.
think, to I think there's several opportunities here, whether it be closet, whether it be another scenario that allows these windows to actually be working windows.
Okay.
And as far as the symmetry goes, you know, I don't think that's as big of an issue as you may have thought it was.
So what if we, can you go to the front elevation again? So what if we get rid of the middle vestige and maybe put 2 smaller windows on both sides, which will allow both rooms to have windows in their closets versus only being on one side. We totally get rid of the middle part and we just put 2 smaller windows, little, like one to the right of the left bedroom, one to the left of the left window in those closets, and then they're functional. Because the only reason I'm thinking is I don't think, if we did your idea, which is the walkthrough for the nanny, we'll be getting rid of the closets.
Which is why I said, I think you have multiple opportunities here, and you, in the end, use which one works best for your
We
construction.
have to keep that roof line, correct?
You could, or you could just go square box.
Oh, okay.
It's very shallow.
Okay.
But what you're doing is you're developing this bump with windows. Bump works, maybe it could be wider, maybe it could be with different materials. That the bump moves over so that your windows line up where they need to be with respect to this, the closet whatever's helping with those interior alcoves.
Just know that you don't have to be symmetrical. And your first floor elevation isn't symmetrical, right? You put your door off center, so you're okay. There are many solutions before you.
Right.
You just need to figure out what works for this home
Okay.
and who that ultimate owner is going to be and what they're gonna like.
Yeah.
It's obviously greatly preferable to us and to the neighborhood that there not be fake windows.
I think that's the basic.
That's the biggest thing.
gist.
Okay. So there could be smaller windows and asymmetrical and functional, okay. Now, would we still have to keep that, that hip? That was in,
No, the city could
square
square off.
Squared off, okay. Perfect.
I think the main point in the discussion is make them functional, usable, they become something for you, and then whatever that feature is works with the overall facade.
Okay.
We're not gonna tell you it has to be something in particular, it just needs to be conforming in terms of it's compatible with the neighborhood, right, the historic district, and
Needs
that's
to be
really
functional.
what we look for.
And like mentioned before, you know, you can go through the district and some of the older structures, and you're gonna find windows of all sorts of sizes all over these things. And that's how they were built.
I actually like the idea of making it a hallway and putting that window right in the middle of the hallway. And putting the dresser, like you said, it kind of makes
Okay,
it a nice
it's
little.
an option.
Yeah, I like
It's an
that
option.
option.
All right, any other questions for the applicants?
I have none.
Nope. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal. If there's anything you'd like to add to your presentation or respond to anything that was said.
No, I think it's, everything's it's good. You guys gave really good advice, and we will adhere to that and make these changes for the final plans. Like I said, when I met with Dennis, he told me that the window didn't have to be functional, so we just did it that way for the sake of getting it done. But after having this meeting, I have a lot more clarification what I can do and what I will do. So they will be functional windows, whether it's in a closet or whether it's a hallway between the 2 bedrooms. So, yeah.
And we were very excited to get started.
Yes, we are. It's been nearly 2 years, so
Yes.
you got to break ground.
All righty. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your
So
time.
we're gonna close the public
Consideration.
hearing and then we're gonna discuss the case.
Okay.
I think we have here another great addition to the Hampton Heights area, taking over a vacant,
Especially on such an edge condition.
especially such an edge condition on a vacant lot. I had to look it up. That vertical divisor between window units is a muntin.
Muntin, that's right.
That's the Muntin, yeah,
That's
when
the
you
magic
frame it
word.
out and you-
That's the magic word. I had to look it up.
Thank
It
you.
was bugging me a little bit. I really have no issue with this. You know, we have some minor detailing. It's a together plan. well presented. I have no issues.
Yeah, the only thing, and I completely understand why they have elected not to use them, which is the welcome walls. I think this house is somewhat screaming for them, but unfortunately, we've got less grand homes across the street that already have them, and so I do understand the rationale behind why they've kind of stepped away from that, but, you know, it is one of those things that it just feels like it won't them. But again, that's something that, you know, I don't know.
You know,
that
one of the things they might want to consider doing as an example is as the stairs cascade and come forward of the piers, the stairs elongate,
Get wider.
get wider, so that they fill up the whole of that area that's
In
not
front
only
of the
between them,
piers.
but also in front of the adjacent piers, and then come forward onto the grounds.
The only other item that I feel like maybe needs some discussion is the stem wall, where they're wanting to just apply this
Yeah.
tile and only gonna have a reveal of about
Right.
half an inch. I feel like that reveal needs to be,
I think it's fairly easy to
Deeper?
frame that wall in such a way and to cast that wall in such a way so that there are recesses in the footing wall that are slightly deeper than just the thickness of the faux brick, you know, to give it a little more depth, a couple inches, a few inches, to make it, give a shadow when the sun hits it kind of thing. Otherwise, it will look pretty phony, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Oh,
what,
yes.
So you're thinking about casting in a reveal of some sort?
A recess, a full
maybe
recess.
inch
Just
and a
recess?
half, 2
Yeah.
inch.
Yeah.
I mean.
Deep.
I think
Yeah,
it,
deep.
what it essentially is that there needs to be some rethinking of the detail to allow for more of that shadow line presence, to
Yeah.
make the
Yeah.
brick feel more three-dimensional when it reads as a pier, rather than just a applied.
An applied
If
piece
not,
of-
it's not gonna read as anything.
It's gonna read as paint,
I think there's
you
a
know.
couple of ways you can do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that would add considerably to the meeting of the house to the ground.
Yeah,
I
I
had-
think other than asking for certain things to be brought to staff, like cut sheets for particular things, the fences, the two different fences, the gate, and then seeing what the face brick looks like, that's the biggest thing, is the detailing of the foundation, that final detailing.
And the second floor windows.
Well, yes,
Yep.
that too, yes.
Yeah.
We have entertain a motion at this time, or? Do we need to discuss it? One,
Let me
two,
take a
three.
stab at this. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 22-457 for the property located at 204 East Adelaide Street in the Tampa Heights Historic District, with the following conditions: that the applicant coordinate with staff the following final details for the items, including fences and gates, window details, particularly muntins where the windows are ganged together, coordination of the faux decorative brick piers on the concrete stem wall foundation with respect to scale, extent, as well as shadow lines, pavement scorings consistent with the nature of pavements found in the historic district. Am I missing anything?
The location of the fence at the front, the return to the sides.
Again, the location of the fence and gates with respect to their side termination to the building, as well as a reconsideration for the second floor center window assembly with respect to their size, their location, and their details respecting their enclosure on the front of the building.
Did you include the foundation
Yes, I did.
discussion? Okay.
Because based upon the finding of fact, proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights Historic Guidelines in the City of Tampa for the following reasons, in compliance with Chapter 27. The scale, the mass, and materiality typically found in the Tampa Heights Historic District, as well as the compliance with the Secretary of State guidelines, even though this is in fact a new construction, highly compatible with those other constructions contributing to the historic district.
I would like to amend that to state that it's the Secretary of Interior standards, not the Secretary of State's standards.
Secretary of Interior standards. I stand corrected.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Before we vote on it, do you understand the conditions that were put forth tonight with this motion?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, please state aye. Raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Have a fabulous holiday season and
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Thank you
Happy
so much.
holidays. Thank you.
Commissioners, the last item on the agenda this evening is case ARC 22-495 for the property located at 2820 North Morgan Street. This is again in the Tampa Heights Historic District. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction of an accessory structure with site improvements. There is an existing structure on the property. It's a non-contributing residence that was built 1982. And with that, I will move into the photo presentation. Here again is the map of the Tampa Heights Historic District. You can see the subject site in green on the north half and the west side of the Tampa Heights Historic District. Looking at the 1920 Sandbar map, you can see that this is a particularly deep lot, deep and narrow lot. It's on the west side of North Morgan Street, between what is now, I believe, Gladys Street and Florabraska Avenue. At that time, there was a structure at the site. It's not obviously the same one that is there today. Again, this is the present-day aerial map of the site on the west side of Morgan Street, 1 block away from Florida Avenue. This is the existing structure on the site. This is looking at the property on the north side. Sorry, the south side. No, north side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the south side there. And then this is the rear of the existing structure on the site. This is looking just directly to the north of the site at the adjacent parcel, and then directed to the south of the site, and across the street. Here's the view looking north along Morgan Street, and the view to the south along Morgan Street. This is a view looking into the subject site from the alley, and looking more toward the location in the subject site where the proposed structure will be placed. This is the view looking north in the alley. You can see the commercial properties that are fronting Florida Avenue there, and then looking south on the alley toward Gladys Street. And that concludes the photo presentation, so at this time I will have the applicant present the request.
Good evening. My name is Henry Mosley, and I'm representing the King family to construct a 363 square foot accessory structure with additional living space. It's an in-law suite that we're going to be building for the owner's parents or owner's mother. And our site plan is you may have heard, is 163 feet deep. And you can see our existing structure up front was originally probably a, historical structure, but it was a torn down and a duplex built, single-story duplex, which the owner has converted, into a single residence at this point. So it's not a contributing structure. The structure to the south of us is not a contributing structure. We have the commercial property to the rear of us. And just for the record, we are probably, the property dips off, Morgan Street is a little higher than the rear site. So the property dips off, and we are probably 130 feet from the front property line. So you really probably will not see the structure unless you actually drive through the alley or, possibly through the fence on the property to the north of us. So we have a 30-foot rear setback, a 3-foot side left setback, or south setback. Our air conditioner is, I don't know if you can see it or not, is tucked right there between the alley and the building. And we have numerous trees on the site, so we've tried to maintain our setbacks from them. You can see, I think we have a 44-foot setback from the 38-inch oak and a 28-foot from the oak that's on that south side, more towards the rear. Trying to think of what else I can tell you about the site. It faces a commercial alley, at least the back side of our site. It's pretty overgrown, and it's a 12-foot wide alleyway. And so there were some requirements from transportation. The original duplex was built without any kind of on-site parking, so transportation is required that we put in an additional 12 feet of back space or backing up space, plus a 20-foot parking pad that was never probably originally, should have probably been on the site to begin with, but currently there is no on-site parking, so we're providing that. So if you don't mind, I'll move to the floor plan. And our building is a one-room efficiency. It's a nice little layout. Oops. You can see it right there. It's going to have doesn't have a kitchen. It has a beverage center. You can see a sitting room, an entry door, and good windows, 9-foot ceilings, and basically more of a contemporary. The interior finishes are probably more consistent with what you'd find in a new non-historical structure. For your information, all of our windows are aluminum, finned windows. They're going to be attached to the face of the building. And we can go into some of the architectural details on the exterior here in a minute. I guess we could probably just move to the elevations at this point. And sort of, scale in. All of our windows are 1/1s, and we're using traditional 5/4 hardy board trim material with an extended sill, 1x6 on above the doors, above the windows and the doors, with a little bit of flashing. All of our corner trim boards are 5/4 6-inch faced smooth hardy, and the same thing with the fascia and the trim board over the top of the beam material and the post material. So I think everything is probably pretty consistent with what we probably find, with a historical building. We do use aluminum fascia, or not aluminum fascia, excuse me, aluminum perforated soffit to get the ventilation in the attic. So we're going to have our soffit material is going to be aluminum and perforated metal. And the roof is a 5B metal, gray galvalume roof to match the existing house and probably what you'd probably find consistently in the neighborhood. As you can see, our front door is a metal, or not a metal, fiberglass impact rated 6-panel door. And, we're sort of open to suggestions as far as the interior, or that one door is concerned. It seems like every time I've done this, I've suggested a door, and then somebody, on the committee, suggested a different door. So I decided just to leave the door on there for the hearing and let you guys, maybe let us submit a couple things to staff and let staff, come up with a different door. Because of security, we didn't want a piece of glass in the door. That's probably the only thing that we'd like to just keep it a solid door for some reason. We have good windows. I think in the space we have here, we have almost 6 or 7 windows for the building, so we have good light inside the building. I just don't think we need an additional window in the door. And as far as the construct of the building, it's a 2x frame wall, with insulation, R13 insulation. And again, you can see from the, let me get this down where you can see it right there. It's a stem wall construction on slab. The elevation is not really consistent with what you're looking at right there. We do have a requirement from the city to be 18 inches above the crown of the road, and we've called that out. We can either be 18 inches above the alley, I believe, or the front of the road on Morgan. Problem is with Morgan, and I think my designer actually called the 18 inches at Morgan, and if you take that elevation and take it to the back of the site with the grade drop, it puts us like 3 feet above grade, which is not correct. I think I noticed that when you guys were discussing another case. Okay, I think those are all the information that I think I have right now to give to your committee. I'm open for questions.
We're going to go ahead and do the staff report. And
Okay.
then we will ask questions.
All right.
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. Staff finds this application to be consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines. Given that the existing structure is a non-contributing, more recent addition to the neighborhood and to the historic district, I think that the proposed accessory structure is a compatible design, sort of a cross between what's existing historically in the district and with the site itself. So with that, I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I don't think there are anybody here that wants to talk for or against. I believe that's one of the owners in the audience. So we're going to go ahead and move forward to the questions, and I'll start with Commissioner Taylor this time.
Could you bring your wall section back up?
Sure.
My question is going to revolve around how high above grade you are here with your siding. It looks like it's showing just 3.5 inches, which
Well,
I know it's going to be higher.
it is going to be higher. I think that with the wall section's not consistent with the site plan. The site plan has us almost 24 inches above grade.
Okay. I think that's all I have for now.
Mr. Prokop?
Could you bring up the site plan again and point out the AC unit,
Yes.
please?
Sure. Use a little pointing device this time.
You could zoom in.
Yeah. Oops. It is right here.
Okay.
So we meet the 3-foot setback. I think it's maybe 4, but we're back around the corner.
Yeah, and I noted that because on your, can you bring up the floor plan now? because it shows the AC unit in a different location. I just want to make sure we put
Yeah,
on record where it is located.
It is, yeah. This is possibly, I borrowed this, these plans from from staff because I only had a full set of construction drawings. But we specifically moved it around the corner.
Okay.
It's right now, and we would always have to do that. It was incorrect to show it there. But anything in the city of Tampa is gonna have to be, I think it's 3 or 4 feet off the property line. We only have a 3-foot setback on that side, so it would have to go around the back.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify that. It's a very, very small comment, but I note that you have used the same window head treatment and door head treatment in a piece of 6-inch 1x6, but that they don't align. Is there a reason they don't align?
Well, we set our windows at 88 inches. It's a 9-foot ceiling, and so 80 inches is too low. We've just found that sweet spot in a 9-foot ceiling looks good. And
Okay,
if you know, the door itself, it's an 80-inch door.
right.
And so, I don't know, we could, I mean, I think it's possible by putting a piece of 1x8 up there or something like that, it would kind of look grotesque. We could put a taller door in, you know, an 84-inch door.
I was just asking if it was
Yeah.
intentional.
That, it's deliberate. It really doesn't show up in the buildings, you know,
Okay.
when we build them. We do a lot of accessory dwelling units. We build them in multiple counties. And so, we're kind of the cottage company, a lot of backyard structures, and for some reason, it just doesn't show up.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Sutton?
Thank you very much. Sir, could you please return to your site plan?
Yes, sir.
please? Well, in using the word of my compatriot, could you please move this down a scoosh? Because I'd like to talk to you about your parking pad, driveway,
Yes,
access from the platted alley right-of-way,
Correct.
and what you are doing with fences and gates here.
we have a 4-foot chain link fence. It's consistent. It's my owners are planning on keeping that. It's kind of a low security fence. It's been there. It's existing. And there is a chain link fence across the back, and from what I can tell, that they want to keep that.
So are you planning on cutting into this fence a gate for this driveway?
Yes, there's actually a double gate back there right now.
Oh, so it's
Yeah,
existing.
we would just reconfigure it to make it work at the drive pad.
Have you selected materials for the parking pad and the driveway at this
It's
time?
concrete.
It's
It's
going
gonna
to be
be a
concrete.
concrete structure,
So
correct.
we're going to have to
Yeah,
coordinate.
the owners actually have asked me if they could do a different material. But right now, we're proposing a, 4-inch concrete pad, 6 inches, 6-inch thick at the, the easement there.
Owing to the simplicity, I can see how it would be just plain concrete, no
Yeah.
special detailing, but there will have to be some scoring to coordinate. And that could
Okay,
be the
that's fine.
design for
Yeah.
that. Now, with respecting that same area, if you could pull the plan up a little bit, notice your entrance into your cottage.
Correct.
Are you planning at this time anything respecting pavement, if you will, connecting this cottage to the main dwelling?
It's gonna be natural material,
It's
just a
gonna be
mulch.
overland.
Yeah, correct. It's landscaping and soft mulch.
That is all I have
Yeah.
question.
Any kind of emergency egress or something like that would come to the back. At the great difference in the size of the, I think that the primary structure, the existing structure up front, has got very narrow setbacks. And so I think the owner that's gonna actually live in the cottage, the mother is gonna be coming in and out of the back, so.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Can you confirm the materiality of the primary structure?
Yeah, it's a 2x4 framed wall with,
What's the finished material?
oh, it's smooth hardy. Everything is smooth hardy, trim.
No, the existing primary structure.
Oh, it's concrete block and
And
stucco.
the finished stucco.
Yeah, it's stucco, correct.
I'm just interested in the material choice. I think this fits in with the historic district, I'm not gonna
Right.
say that, but It's just interesting that, you know, it is a stucco structure.
Right.
And if there was consideration of looking at other materials and.
We have, and
warranty.
it's just, you know, when you chase, I hate to say it ugly, it's just, you know, I do a lot of construction. We do a lot of work in some historical districts and like this, and sometimes City of St. Pete, Dunedin, Clearwater, they want you to match the existing house, but hopefully we're actually gonna try to match something that's reasonably good looking. I don't know how we could match this, in.
I'm not asking you to match the house. I'm just interested in if there was exploration of other materials that are more in keeping with the primary structure. So looking at stucco, because there are styles, historic styles within the district that
Right.
do have stucco properties.
We like the cottage look, and we just think it's more consistent with the neighborhood. And I've actually talked to the owner about potentially going in there at some point or another down the road and actually putting siding on the existing building to match what we're doing here. Okay. So I think if we had to do something like that, it would be probably getting the existing home a little bit more consistent with the neighborhood and not in the other direction, so.
Okay. And do you have any information on the hardware and the lighting that's proposed?
It's down lighting from the front porch, and the hardware is gonna be a Schlage stainless steel lever set because we're dealing with an aging parent, so we want some sort of a lever, and it's just a brushed nickel deadbolt over the top of a handset.
Do you have any cut sheets on that, what that looks like? For
I don't,
imagery?
sorry.
No?
You know, it's a
Okay.
Schlage setup, it's a commercial Schlage,
I
you know,
understand.
stainless steel,
It's-
little
we have
paddle.
to ask for
I
that.
know, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And then for the ceiling, I don't recall if you stated it.
It's a very small ceiling, we were just gonna smooth drywall, mainly because you can't see it, you know, is the plan.
Gypsum. Okay. I do not have any further questions. Any others this time?
I have no further question, thank you.
Okay. Well, then you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I don't have anything to rebut, thank you.
Okay, all right. We'll go ahead and close the hearing and we'll discuss the case.
We see a lot of accessory structures, almost as many as we see whole brand-new structures. And I find it refreshing, finally, to have a modest accessory structure to take a look at. I think this is a handsome, small addition to this site. As for the door, that could easily be coordinated with staff, but I do understand the security issues, considering you're smack dab on top of Florida at this point in time, the Florida industrial area. So I could see that being a very serious consideration. But on the other hand, I could also state that, you know, with many things, a door, much like your windows, you know, done with laminated glass, would be every bit as secure as a solid steel door in many respects. So even then at that point, you know, a glass light in whole or in part would not be out of keeping for this structure, and I think would still meet your security needs. But that's all I have to comment on.
I think the door really is more about a style in terms of where it fits. I don't think the 6-panel raise fits with what's in the rest of the design. The opaque versus some light is really a personal preference, I feel, and I do agree there's a lot of windows on this little tiny thing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the door, especially since it's facing the side yard, it's not facing
It's not a big deal.
front or rear,
Yeah.
is a big deal, whether it's glass or not. The rest of the design has plenty of adequate glazing and windows to break up the elevations. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a little box in the backyard.
Well done.
And it's well done, and it saves trees and doesn't ask for any exceptions or setback issues, and I think it is what it is.
I think they just need to be clear about where the grade, where they are landing in terms of where they're taking the reference for their grade. It seemed like there was a little bit of confusion there, so there's some things on the drawings to clear up, but other than that.
Yeah, you know, if they're 2 feet up in the air on the slab, you're gonna need something in the nature of, you know, some stoop or step work.
Well,
Yeah.
so the remark was, it's the elevation based on either the road, the crown of the road, or the crown of the alley.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell us what the grade's doing.
Correct.
So I agree, that would be a complication that they need to figure out, but, for our needs, and typically we would understand that, what that means for the grade where it's going to be. We do need clarification in the drawings when they go back to staff with their final drawings. Again, any other thoughts?
Pretty cut and dry.
Entertain a motion? Commissioner Taylor? Is that the location of the AC was different? Cut sheet of the hardware, the door, spec. And then the grade.
Pavement scoring.
Yeah. There's just. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The grade elevation, the scoring of the concrete, the location, the door hardware, and the door. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay.
All right, I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 22-495 for the property located at 2820 North Morgan Street, because based upon the finding
With the following conditions?
with the following conditions. That the front door style is coordinated with staff, the location of the AC, the grade of the dwelling, the hardware selection and cut sheet is provided, and the pavement scoring is coordinated with staff. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines of the city of Tampa for the following reasons. Scale, height, and width, massing and building form, and alignment, rhythm, and spacing.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Before we vote, sir, do you understand the conditions put forth?
I do. Making sure that the elevation, the grades are correct, the submitting a proposed alternate door to staff that included the hardware for the door, the scoring of the concrete, and cleaning up the location of the air conditioning.
Correct.
All right.
All right, all in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And have a great holiday season.
And same to you.
We are adjourned until next year.